Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a spooktacular show for you today. I guess it's not our pre-Halloween show because Monday is actually Halloween, but
I won't be here.
You won't be here. This is an expansive Halloween today. My main Halloween party is today and over the weekend, so I feel like I'm getting in the spirit of it.
You got to tell the people what you're going as, Robby.
I'm going to save that for the end of the show. They got to watch the whole show.
Fair enough.
If they want to know about that. What else do we have going on?
Well, before we get to that big reveal, David Zweig will join us to discuss new data on pandemic-related learning losses across the country. Plus, we'll get into the fallout from the Fetterman-Oz debate with our Rising panel. But first, new Commerce Department data released this morning shows the U.S. economy grew 2.6% in quarter three, the first sign of growth after 6 months of heavy declines. However, more than half of Americans are considering taking on extra jobs to be able to pay their bills, according to a new study by Qualtrics. As the cost of living continues to climb, working families are struggling to keep up. According to the poll, nearly 70% of working parents say their pay simply isn't enough to pay the bills. According to a recent Brookings Institution estimate, the cost of raising a child through high school has surged more than $26,000 from 2 years ago.
That's horrible. With the economy front and center this midterm season, President Biden is set to make his final pitch to midterm voters in Syracuse today by bashing Republicans' inflation strategy, or lack thereof. According to the White House, the president plans to say that Republicans' economic plans, which Biden has dubbed the Mega-MAGA Trickle-Down economic plan. That sounds like a state lottery to me.
What's the total this week, Briahna?
Well, he says that will only increase inflation and benefit the super wealthy. And with the election day just right around the corner, is it too little too late? Quote, I'm a little skeptical that a closing argument can change the narrative of the race, one policy consultant told The Hill. The cake is likely baked at this point in terms of what people think. And of course, some people are already voting. There's voting going on. People are at the polls. Fetterman better hope a lot of people were already at the polls before that debate, I would say. The kind of, we're trying to read the tea leaves. Who knows? We'll know for sure in, a few days. But things have really shifted back toward Republicans. I'm not sure exactly why that is. Obviously, we have a bunch of suspicions
polls,
for why.
They're so fickle, and everything is always so close. And to the extent that just a month or two ago, we were talking about how fortunes looked really up for Democrats because we were riding high on turnout or prospective turnout because of abortion and people being so riled up over the Dobbs decision. Then it flipped back to Republicans. I saw a story yesterday about how polls were showing some signs of hope for Democrats again. The point is it's going to be very close. And there's an argument that it shouldn't necessarily be this close. When, look, I think that MAGA $1 million whatever lotto is a ridiculous framing device, but it is well overdue for Democrats to be talking in the affirmative about the fact that Republicans don't actually have an inflation reduction plan in the affirmative outside of their stated plan to cut Social Security and Medicare, which I covered in a radar earlier this week.
I don't think they're talking about wanting to do that, though. We disagree on this. I don't. Maybe that is what they actually want to do. They're not talking. They're claiming they're going to do that.
They are talking about it, and I quote several Republicans in the course of my radar who have explicitly said that. So there's a Republican Economic Commission that contains 3/4 of House Republicans that have all committed to this plan. It's in the Eric Levitt's piece in New York Magazine that people should read. That was also posted earlier this week. But they're not really hiding the ball about it in terms of what they're talking about internally as an organization. What they are doing is hiding the ball about it as they make their pitch to the American public, which is all about the cultural issues. And so as I mentioned in my radar, all of the Republican press covered that economic plan by framing it as an immigration plan to shut down a porous border or a plan to restore or protect American family values and things like that. And they don't talk about what the actual economic premise is, which is these cuts to Social Security and Medicare.
Conservative media covers Republican plans in very favorable language, as does progressive and mainstream media coverage of Democratic plans.
Well, unfortunately, what that means is that if Republican media is covering these plans inaccurately and Democratic media isn't covering these plans at all, of the American people who are very invested in not having their Social Security eligibility age raised to 70 or the Medicare eligibility raised to 67 are going to be caught really unawares when as it's likely to be the case, a Republican House comes into power, and these policies really are on the chopping block.
I mean, a Republican House comes into power and what? Ends the Ukraine funding, brings down some of the spending that American people don't even support.
We'll see, maybe.
That's kind of what they're promising to do.
Maybe, but a majority of the caucus also, the Republican caucus also doesn't support ending the war in Ukraine.
We'll see how that is. That's true now. I think that's going to be changing. I think on this issue is all of the ideological sorting. Foreign policy is like the last thing to sort itself neatly. It was like which side has which view has remained kind of messy on that issue, unlike all other issues for a long time. This might be the last election for which this is the case. I think the anti-war faction in American political life will be solidly and firmly and almost completely within the Republican Party.
I think that is already true, but that doesn't mean that anywhere close to a majority of Republicans supports that. Again, overwhelming majorities of Republicans supported these Ukraine aid packages. Only 11 out of 50 senators voted against it among the Republicans, and it was a minority.
Donald Trump was able to scramble the Republican consensus on not every issue, but some issues virtually overnight by loudly proclaiming and then demonstrating that this is what the actual Republican voters wanted. And he already did a lot of that work on foreign policy. I think this could be the other. He led the way, and I think the rest of that could be accomplished.
We'll see. I wish we could have a Donald Trump of the left who could do the same thing, but we saw them all bend the knee really horrifically.
I know.
Over this letter.
We're gonna talk about that more. I think still so horrifying. Still.
It's ridiculous. And, I've seen Republicans. I saw Tulsi Gabbard come out and make a statement doubling down and pointing out what Democrats really teed up for her, that they have cleared the way for Republicans, as you said, conservatives generally speaking, however, Tulsi is identifying right now, to be the vanguard of the anti-war movement. And to the extent that progressives or liberals or squad members or whoever think that that's an argument being made in bad faith, it doesn't really matter because they're the only one making the argument. And the lane is clear for them to step in and actually stand up and channel some of this energy. In fact, I think we're going to talk about later in the show, even the Pod Save America guys have said, hey, the left needs to not let the right solely occupy this lane. These are former Obama speechwriters who are acknowledging this truth. Yeah. We'll see if anyone's going to wake up and listen.
Well, we'll keep following all the election coverage until we get to the day. I still do think you're right. It's so close in so many races. Candidate quality does matter. Like the gubernatorial candidate in Arizona, Carrie Lake, is polling so much better in her matchup versus Blake Masters, the Senate candidate. The same is true in Georgia. It feels like slightly different choices by Republican primary voters would make this a blowout for certain instead of a nail biter. Could be a blowout, could be something else, and it is a nail biter. Wouldn't have been if there was a little bit more candidate to support. I continue to think that's the case, but could be wrong. Looking forward to what's on your radar. Stay tuned for that.